welcome to Straight Talk. African President of the United States of America, President Barack Obama.
Good to see you. I just want to say everybody back home, right back at you. We appreciate you. You always give us straight talk.
And welcome to Straight Talk. Well, you're in for a treat today. You have a house full of judges judging poor little me, sitting here in leather and wondering, what's this going to be all about? Judge Harvey, Judge Bates, and Judge Davis. Hi, judges.
Good
How are you?
evening.
Good evening.
Can you tell us what, why you're here tonight?
Well, I think we
Not
are
to attack me, but
most certainly not to attack you.
Okay.
We are coming before your viewers once again, our community, just to keep them informed with what the judges who have been appointed to represent your area are doing. You've seen myself, Judge Harvey, as well as Judge Davis, and now we also have with us Judge Bates, who is the senior amongst the three of us. And so we just want to come back and continue to tell the community what we're doing.
why would you have to call that gentleman a senior?
He's a senior in that he's been a
bench.
sitting judge the
Oh,
longest.
senior judge.
As well as an
Okay.
attorney the longest.
Correct.
I am not a senior citizen.
But, you know, I know these two ladies, and they, you know, want to jump on elderly men.
Never, never. We bring justice for all.
For all, okay. I understand. They're very good judges, and I like for you to look at them, and if you have questions, call and ask them a question. Go right ahead, Judge.
Me?
Well, this
Okay.
is your first time.
I am Judge Bates. I was appointed to the bench by the Supreme Court in 2015. I was reappointed in December of 2016. I ran countywide in 2016, and like every other African-American judge who had an opponent, I lost. And it was the first time that all the black judges lost, and we have to make certain that that does not happen. I got blessed, this is my ministry, and I was fortunate to get reappointed. When the Supreme Court appoints you to the bench and you give up your job, they tell you good luck and you must defend your seat. They stopped the practice of reappointing judges quite some time ago, so I was humbled, honored, and surprised when I got the call telling me that I was being reappointed in a sub-circuit, and I'm running in the second sub-circuit with Judge Harvey and Judge Davis. I'm out in the Markham Courthouse. I hear traffic and criminal misdemeanor matters there. I was in the Daily Center where I heard a myriad of types of cases from forcible entry and detainer, eviction court, to small claims, to traffic, to criminal misdemeanors, and the like.
But judges, don't let this male judge dominate you now. Go
I
ahead.
actually want to jump in on something he said. I think what's important to know is a lot of times our community thinks, oh, all the African American judges who had opponents lost to non-African Americans. It was African Americans who, perhaps not always, but many times did not submit themselves to the Bar Association's evaluation process, who went sometimes, and I don't want to indict, you know, everyone, sometimes went on name recognition, be persons who had submitted themselves to bar associations for evaluations, for judicial ratings, who had submitted themselves before the Supreme Court and were appointed not based on politics, not based on who they knew or some juice, but based on real qualifications, really being prepared to take the bench. And they lost against someone who didn't do that same process. And I think that's what's important to know, that appointed judges are not there because of politics. They're there based on hard work.
They've gone through peer review. They've submitted themselves to their colleagues for evaluation. They've been favorably rated, or the Supreme Court would not appoint them. The Supreme Court does their own vetting in addition to the bar associations. So for those of us who have been blessed to be appointed by the Supreme Court, We're qualified, make no mistake about it. What troubles me is it's only in the 4 black sub-circuits that candidates run without submitting themselves for peer review. And if they've got a good ballot name, Jones, Johnson, etc., believing that people will go down the ballot and vote, quote, black, or if they're, in many instances, a female, because there are more female voters in our community than male voters, that is a fact, they'll just take a shot. And it's unfortunate because you can end up with people who are not qualified for the job. And in fact, I'm convinced that that happened in the last cycle. We had at least one person who won, who had, as best I can tell, never really been a practicing lawyer, and ended up getting herself in trouble with the law.
Well, has the process changed? It was supposed to be, the sub-circuit was supposed to be for the sake of allowing blacks an opportunity to become judges.
I think it depends on the sub-circuit. So the goal was, of course, to get more African Americans on the bench, but it also was to get more minorities, meaning females, Hispanic Americans.
Do they have a female community someplace?
Well, I mean, when you consider traditionally who wore the robe, you know,
right, that's true.
Who was appointed and elected, it wasn't individuals from our community. They weren't minorities when you talk about ethnicity. There are some changes. But what we keep hearing, and I think what my colleagues are addressing, is the fact that so many people say, I don't know how to vote for judges. I don't know who to look for. I don't know anything about the judges. And one of the things that we're saying is one of the starting points, you look at the judicial evaluations. They generally come out in the Chicago Tribune, I believe, around February. Also, if you go online and check, it will tell you how these judges or these individuals are rated if they submit it. And a lot of people don't know that there is even a process by which judges or candidates for judicial appointments are evaluated and found qualified, recommended, or not qualified or recommended.
And I think what's sad is some candidates just don't go before for as you say, peer review or judicial evaluation.
Yeah, that's my concern, is they don't go at all. And because they think they have a good ballot name, they throw their hat in the ring, and it's just disingenuous to the public. And what I was trying to say earlier is that only happens in the black sub-circuits. In the white sub-circuits and the Hispanic sub-circuits, those people submit themselves to peer review. But for some reason, in our community, people think they can get away without doing that because history has shown they can. And we have to stop that because we deserve to have high-quality judges just like the other sub-circuits.
And I should also say, since you were appointed to the second sub-circuit in December of 2016, of the 5 seated judges who were appointed and who will all be on the ballot, we're all African American. The Supreme Court knew our community, and it was all African Americans appointed to the bench. So that portion has happened. But, you know, does someone have a better ballot name than me? Will they beat me? And I've gone through peer review, I've gone through evaluations by the Supreme Court, and I'm sitting and doing the work. That's what we face.
You mean like a politician?
Well,
with a bunch of workers?
Well, it could be that, or it could just be based on a name. Any of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear all of the time when we talk to voters, well, I just look for a name. I look for a name that sounds African American.
Right.
I look for a name that sounds female. And, you know, we're not blaming anyone. We're saying we challenge you to go and do the homework. Go find out what the qualifications are of the individuals. Most of us, we pass out literature. On our literature, we will state whether or not we have been evaluated. So when you get the literature, look at it. See if it says that they've been evaluated. See if it says that they're active in the community.
Check out their websites. And really, I want to, if I can jump in, really listen to what they say. I listen to a lot of what many of the people running throughout the sub-circuit say, or throughout various races. And I'll hear, I did murder cases. Did you first chair one? Or were you the second or third chair on a handful? Just really listen to the full statement. You know, I'm not saying these are not good lawyers, but perhaps some need a little bit more seasoning.
I will share something with you. I was the outside lawyer to the office of the chief judge before Chief Judge Evans became chief judge, and I stayed on as their outside lawyer after Judge Evans became the chief judge. His predecessor, Judge O'Connell, offered me an opportunity to go on the bench in 1996, which I turned down. I did not turn it down because I was too young. I did not turn it down because I was not a good lawyer. I was president of my own law firm. I had been a partner in a major firm in Chicago already. I turned it down because I did not have enough life experience. And when you sit in judgment of these cases, it's more than your legal acumen. You have to have had life experiences that make you a more compassionate, that make you a more patient, a more understanding person. Judges have a lot of power. And some people put that robe on and that power becomes intoxicating. If you've lived life and you've humbled yourself and been humbled by our Lord, you won't be intoxicated by that robe. You will recognize you are a public servant.
You know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you just don't even know that you're not quite ready. Sometimes you think you're ready, but you don't know what you don't know.
And I just think it's, you know, part of what we do, in addition to our time on the bench dispensing justice, is educating. Mm-hmm. Be it whether or not we are going into the schools and we're educating young people on rights and responsibilities, working with different programs that the court system puts on, knowing when to leave the party, talking about
knowing what to do in a traffic stop.
Right. I mean, so we educate the public about the judicial system, be it how to get qualified individuals elected. That's all a part of what you should expect from the judges.
You know, this week I had an epiphany. We always talk about how we treat defendants and witnesses, but what I realized, I think, what's even more important is how I train and instruct and mentor young lawyers. Good judges make good lawyers and make good lawyers better. Think back to when you were in front of Judge Marbley. Yes. And when we would do conferences with the judge, I would call it advanced criminal procedure, because he would take us into chambers and you thought you knew everything because you were a young lawyer with 1, 2, 4, 5, 10 years of experience. And he would gently but firmly school you on what you did not know. That takes seasoning. That takes some experience.
You can't mentor someone if you haven't been through the fires yourself. I want to go back to something Judge Harvey said when she mentioned the Tribune and the endorsements. I am a past president of the Cook County Bar Association, which is the oldest association of lawyers of color in the United States. Each of the bar associations, the 12 bar associations that are part of the peer review process, come with their own perspective. The Gay and Lesbian Bar Association, the Women's Bar, the Hispanic Bar. The Cook County Bar Association is the bar association that represents our community. And I tell people in our community, when in doubt, go to cookcountybar.org and look at the judges.
Absolutely. You know, I think...
and don't forget Black Women's Lawyers Association.
And the Black Women Lawyers Association.
I think a real host is here now, so I'm going to take a break and allow him to come out and take his place. Because
we've enjoyed being with you.
We've enjoyed being with you. And as you know, I'm going to have to leave at the break anyway, but I will be back next week.
Next week?
Next week.
That's a promise.
That's a promise.
It's a promise, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman, Mr. Judge...
Fred Bates.
Fred Bates.
Fred Bates. Frederick Bates. Not Norman's brother.
Right.
Red face. Judge Bates. Judge Bates is going to be back next Friday, next Monday, Wednesday.
Next Monday.
Next Monday. Next Monday is my night, so I'll get a chance to interview you myself.
Okay.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
Sitting in for Deion Dean, The former and future mayor of Riverdale is coming right out. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave.
Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
International Detective and Protective Services, 1-773-675-8506. Over 20 years of armed security experience. The very best in shopping mall security, inventory watch, find missing loved ones, investigative open legal cases, community policing. Are you taking a vacation this summer? For peace of mind, you need our house watch service, cheetah surveillance, and much more. International Detective and Protective Services, 1-773-675-8506. That's 1-773-675-8506. Call now.
And we're back. I know we have a new host here. We had WL before. Now you got Dion Dean. How are you ladies doing? How are you judges doing today?
I am well.
Well, welcome back to the show. I know you just had a nice half an hour with W and talked about a lot of things. So you guys got to bring me up to speed. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Well, just to recap, we were talking about the process of being appointed as a judge.
Okay.
Before you have to run, the process of filling a vacancy, and the difference in the vetting.
Okay.
And the bar evaluations and the qualifications. Just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Judge Harvey and I had to get in additional evaluations. Now that we are judges, we had to be evaluated as sitting judges.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm sure phone calls and interviews will go out to attorneys who have appeared before me on hearings, on trials and cases, to hear how I am doing as a sitting judge, without me, you know, knowing any of the specifics, but just so the community knows, am I doing the work that I have been sent to do?
Oh, wow.
And I mean, so many people don't understand just everything that really goes into the process, and for people to, you know, people to continually say it, and I understand it because I was in that space at one point, to understand what it truly takes to get here, and then not just what it takes to get here, what is expected of you once you are here.
Gotcha.
It's not just an evaluation, because both of us went through extensive evaluations, not only from the Illinois Supreme Court to get appointed, but there were also the evaluations from the Chicago Bar Association, as well as the Alliance, and the Alliance includes the 12 separate members.
Gotcha.
So there are two, I mean, I believe each application, by the time you
At
finish,
least 20.
At least 20 pages.
And that's
pages?
at least.
Oh my
that
God.
is definitely an at least.
For each separate entity. So there were resumes. I mean, there were references. There were cases that you had to cite. Provide not only the case and the case number, but the judge that you were in front of, the opposing counsel. So there were so many things that we had to go back and look at, and so many people who would have input. So it was not just saying, okay, I'll give you all of my colleagues and my friends who are going to say something good. Judges, this is an attorney who was in front of you. What was the skill set of this attorney? What was their knowledge of the law? What was their temperament? What was their professionalism?
Wow.
They asked even, you know, is this someone who is punctual when it comes to coming to court? So they are really evaluating everything that you do as an attorney and saying, how does it relate as a judge? Because that was one of the questions that they asked. Do you start your court on time?
That's very important, because I've been to some courts where the judge just takes forever coming out. I'm like, hold on, we got things to do too. I understand that that's the judge.
No,
but it's got to be
when court is supposed to start. And there are times where if my clerk, not by fault of their own, but paperwork snafus in the process, I'm popping my head out. Ladies and gentlemen, there's some snafus. We will get to you as soon as possible. Or there have been times where I've needed to work both courtrooms. I make sure that people know I'm not, you know, dilly-dallying about, but things are happening, because I think it's so important to be respectful of people's time, and that's part of the evaluation process. Are we respectful of people?
Of their time.
And their time.
And that is so important. That is very important. I mean, I've been extremely mad going to case of just traffic tickets. I'm like, I'm sitting here for an hour and a half, 2 hours for a ticket. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad to hear that they should be punctual, they should be on time, and that's part of their duties, right?
Yes.
To make sure that they do.
And one thing I don't want to gloss over about the appointment, the application process, you must list opposing counsel. Those are generally not your besties. Those are people who you have fought the good fight with. And both Judge Harvey and I were in homicide task force. The stakes were the utmost in a criminal proceeding in Illinois. Those were the highest stakes you can have in state court. And that's where things can get flared. How were you? What was your demeanor with this attorney? Were you fair? What was your skill set? But were you, were you a fair opponent, a fair adversary, although being zealously advocating for your cause? So those, you can't just be screwing up and get through this process.
Right.
It is a
so it's a thorough process that you definitely got to work through.
It's a rigorous process.
I mean, they ask everything. They ask whether or not we've ever been arrested. Have we ever gone to court for anything more than a simple traffic ticket? So
how a simple traffic ticket, how would that affect your situation? Is that affected?
A simple traffic, meaning a speeding ticket, a expired registration, something that is a simple, or what they call a petty offense,
or non-jailable.
Non-jailable. Okay.
Generally would not have an effect.
But a DUI?
Absolutely.
A DUI is very important. I mean, I can see them having a big effect on that. If it's a DUI, it's like, okay, now you got some issues. You know
but those are all things that by submitting to the judicial evaluations, they're able to vet.
Wow.
Someone who does not submit, and we're not saying that there aren't good attorneys out there that aren't good, that qualified attorneys. They may be qualified, but if you never submit.
And they even check your financial disclosures.
Absolutely.
Before and after you get on the bench. And even after you're on the bench, as a sitting judge, I have to disclose my financials every year.
Well, how important is that financials to you actually speaking? I mean, what does that speak to? Let's just set it that way.
Mine not ever being compromised. Someone not ever being able to hold something over my head in terms of my financial system, my financial situation, in order to gain favor in the court.
Wow.
And I will say to that, it doesn't mean you're someone who's wealthy.
No, it does not.
No. It's not that they're saying only wealthy people. But it's saying, if I have a practice where I had a history of representing individuals in DUIs, I had a firm, or I have a certain percentage of ownership in an insurance company, do my outside economic interests cause a conflict for me?
Right, because it may have to be a judgment when they have to come after that business or whatever.
Well, they would have to recuse yourself.
Right.
Because if I have a conflict where I have a certain percentage of ownership in an insurance company, I might not want to be somewhere where I'm hearing cases where they are insurance malpractice, medical malpractice, something of that effect. Because then someone could arguably say, you have a conflict. This person is not able to make decisions on cases objectively. So they are looking at everything when it comes to being qualified to hold the position, qualified to do the job, protecting the public as well as the integrity. And I think that's such a big part, the integrity of the position. Because when individuals come to court, you expect the judges to be fair. You expect them to put friendships to the side. You expect that when you come to court, I truly want my day in court. I want the ability to address the court. I want have the opportunity to literally put my case out there and know that I'm being listened to, that my case is being judged on an individual case-by-case basis. You want to have that comfort, that level of comfort when you go to court.
Right.
I think the process also begins getting the individual who's about to become a judge ready for the change. Because there's some changes. You make some lifestyle changes. It becomes a much more conservative lifestyle. If I have a friend who's written a treatise on something in the law, they are an expert, I can't call them.
Right.
I cannot, as a sitting judge, call them to ask their advice. I'm calling Judge Harvey. I'm calling Judge Bates.
Right.
So there are changes you have to make. There is, not that you're not friends with everybody and still part of the community and go to your church or synagogue, wherever you worship, and do the things, your activities, but there are things, you can't sell Girl Scout cookies.
And now she's telling my story.
But it's mine too in many ways.
And you don't think about that. That was a big change for me.
You can't sell Girl Scout cookies.
Because I'm a Girl Scout leader.
Okay.
And for last 12 years, come February, March, April, I'm standing in front of Jewel or Walgreens or somewhere with my troop selling Girl Scout cookies. Well, I can no longer sell. I have to have my parents sell because I cannot be in a position that it looks as if I'm soliciting for funds for anything.
Yes, yes.
And so the same thing with my top teens. My chapter was looking at a fundraiser, and I said, okay, they can do it, but I can't. It doesn't stop the group you're in. You can still she's still a Girl Scout leader. They're not going to stop that. But so those are the changes you have.
So you actually don't have to leave the girl, but you have to. There's certain things that you can only. I got you. I mean, it's rules and regs and everything.
Well, for years, I'm sure you've given legal advice to your church, your chapter of our sorority. I have the same. I can no longer give legal advice.
Wow.
And it's something as small as we have a contract, and you just look at the contract. And I have to say no.
I can get someone to look at it for you.
I can't
Can you make recommendations? Wow.
I don't even make a recommendation. There are other members of the sorority. You have to call someone else, or I can't do it. It's just that plain and simple.
Deep.
And I made that.
That's deep.
And those are the changes. I don't know that I may have known them, but I don't think I appreciated them until it came into, I realized when one of my village's police officers was sitting in front of my house, and I knew him, and he's like, hey, how's it going? They had gotten my information once I became a sitting judge.
Wow.
So there's that information. One of my deputies, I shouldn't say one of the deputies in my courtroom, he lives around the corner from me. He was very conscious when he saw me at Jewel. He said he wanted to yell out, hi, judge, but he didn't want to put me in a space where people knew that I was a judge and create any uncomfort.
So how did he handle that situation?
Well, he didn't speak to me.
but it's okay to speak, though.
Well, yes, it's more than fine. But we're both learning that space, and those are things that I don't think people appreciate. And I do think the vetting process starts you getting ready for it.
Okay. Wow. So let's talk a little bit about what you're looking forward to when you're seated once again. I will start with you, Judge Harvey.
I think what I like is I'm learning to find the space and the ability to do the things that I did before, just in a new way.
Okay.
As an attorney, I was always in schools talking about knowing your rights and responsibilities for juveniles, careers in the law. And so now I'm still going to the schools. I'm still able to go to the churches, but now I may not be talking about knowing your rights and responsibilities as far as giving blanket legal advice. Now I'm saying this is what to expect when you come to court. This is why you should be on time. This is how you should present when you come to court. This is what you can expect. These are places that maybe you can go to find information.
Wow.
This is the resources that are available.
Right.
Still being able to be of service, but just in a different way. Years past, I always volunteered at the expungement summits as an attorney. So I would review the packets, run the background. Well, of course, I can't do that now, but I was still able to volunteer at the expungement summit last year, now as a judge, because now I'm evaluating and reviewing petitions to have the fees waived. So it's still work. It's a different job, but I'm still able to do the service.
Got you. What about yourself, Judge?
I think for me it's mentorship. I have always loved being a mentor. My space tends to be more high school up through young adults. And I had several young defense attorneys who were mentees to me. Gotcha. Well, now I've been able to spread and mentor prosecutors, other young attorneys. I had a young woman who just took the bar, was sworn in last week, and I met her at your chapter's Voters' Rights Symposium, and she told me she just passed the bar. She doesn't even have her actual ARDC card yet. And I said, come to the courtroom, sit in. We planned it so that she sit in for a little bit of the last call. I let her, I encouraged, I didn't let. I encouraged her to talk to the other young lawyers because they've only been out of law school a year to 2 or 3 or 4. And then I took her back in chambers and what questions do you have? What do you want to know about? When do you want to come again? I get to do that and on a much bigger scale. I did it as a defense attorney, but you don't really mentor prosecutors as much when you're a defense attorney. You might try, and I did have good relations, but now as a judge, I really sit in a space where a prosecutor will come to me. Judge, how did I do on that case? Can you suggest things that I can do better?
Gotcha. And
I had it happen on a case I had this week, and come on back. It went back to the days of Judge Marbley. What did you do well? What can you do better? And being able to do that to young people who want to go to law school, who are in law school, young lawyers, and I'm even getting to do it to lawyers who aren't that young. One of
how do you feel when they're not that, when you're doing someone
there's one of our contemporaries, you know who I'm speaking of, and I kind of suggested gently to him, when you say this, it actually means this, so you may want to say this.
Gotcha.
But in open court, everything above board, but you get to mentor because you're in a space that
you can actually
make
that difference.
And we always talk about the difference you can make in young men and women's lives who come before you as defendants, as witnesses.
Right.
What I realized this week is, I think I said this a little earlier, if I'm making those same type of differences in young lawyers, I have much greater impact because they can keep that going. They can continue to make that change.
Gotcha. Well, that's tremendous. That's something to be honorable with, and just it's tremendous. That's all I can say. As we're moving forward with this race, we're real close to the line. Well, we have 2 things we have to accomplish. We got to get, and we don't want to talk, but we have to get the petitions. But we talk about that later. But once that's a done deal, then we move on to just really starting to prepare for victory. So
I feel like we started preparing for victory back in March, and I don't say that to sound arrogant or anything of that nature. You have to walk in that space from day one.
Gotcha.
You don't prepare to win the gold medal at the Olympics when you get in the starting block. You start when you are training years and years before that time.
Gotcha. When
you're watching what you eat, and and this is from a former, in my younger days, All-American athlete. But it was really, my training started well before state finals.
Gotcha.
We ran cross country, got ready for that long marathon, and we were building. And that's the same thing that we've been doing. So it's not, I'm just doing petitions now, and then I'll start talking to the voters after the petitions are turned in. No, it's the entire time to say, look, what are we doing? This is what we want to do. This is what we bring to the position, and then in the position, we're going to be doing this, this, and this. Because we're not saying we'll wait and see what happens in March and then November, and then we'll start being active in our organizations. You know, Judge Davis is already co-chairing one of the subcommittees for the Illinois Judicial Council, which is the Black Judges Association.
Right.
We're moving.
Wow.
We're making a difference.
So what is your overall feel of the people that you've come in contact with as far as the race and what they feel? What are you getting, what's the feedback that you feel?
Like
it's the voters, you know, like what's the spirit of the individuals? And you know, there's been so much going on since the last election. I'll just say that, I mean, with the president and all, the people's attitude about races is real, you know.
They have questions, and that is part of the questioning, and what can you do to change? And one of the things I always talk about as part of the judiciary, I have to be, you know, my first thing is to be fair, but I can bring compassion. I had a wonderful experience where a lawyer said to me last week, she was a friend who was in my courtroom, and she said she couldn't believe the dignity that I brought to every individual who came before me. But I think in terms of your question, what's going on?
I think we have a call for you guys. Let's see. Straight Talk. Hello? I don't know if we got them on here, you all. Hello? Let me see. I think I hung up.
I think you hung up.
They'll call us back. Go ahead.
Of course, I completely threw
Right. We just got
I do
thrown
want to say
out.
one thing. I think it's important that we say in this space, when Judge Harvey said we, Judge Harvey and I know I've talked about it, we were appointed a day, we were sworn in a day apart.
Yes.
We got our phone calls for appointment 5 minutes apart. We both applied for the same seat. What man meant for one, God meant for two. So here we are. So clearly not running against each other.
I mean, that's exciting to know that we have two individuals who have become very good friends, not running against one another, but in the race together. Someone is trying to call us. We're going to get this call through, ladies. Straight Talk. Hello. Can you hear me? Caller?
Oh, caller, you still there?
Yes, caller, what's your question? Okay, we're having some technical difficulties with the phone. We're going to hang up and we're going to continue our interview.
Yeah, I think they're trying to listen
Right.
and talk at the same time. And
Right.
Feedback.
Well, hopefully it's a good question. If they
Right.
call in, that means they have some questions for you. Go ahead.
I think we are really, and I keep going back to the point of educating the public,
Right.
because what we keep hearing is, I've never seen judges out here like this.
Right.
And you're answering our questions. You're talking to us about how the process occurs. I mean, I get every time I sit down with individuals, it's, well, tell me the difference between an appointment and an election. Tell me the difference between an associate judge and a full circuit judge. What are the qualifications? What do you mean you get evaluated? So they keep getting educated. And I think they are very appreciative. I appreciate being able to share the information because, to be honest, I didn't know all of the things that I know now. To be honest, this is not a space that I was in. I thought about it before. I've talked to some of my mentors. So to get to this place now, I have the knowledge. I want to make sure everyone else has it. And it's good.
Judges, we're going
They
to try.
really
We're
wanna
going to
talk.
try this one more time. I hope our situation is better. Straight Talk, caller. Hello, caller. You have a question for the judges? Okay, we're going to leave this one alone. Then maybe they just want to listen in on the television as well as the phone. Okay, I'm sorry.
I do want to jump into one of the things Judge Harvey was saying. That is one of the biggest things I hear all the time is we're so happy to see the judges out there, and we are trying to touch every voter that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
But I cannot say enough, while there are a lot of wonderful people running, what I hear every time is all of you judges are out here. In the 2nd Judicial Sub-Circuit running for judge, there are 5 of us.
Wow.
There are wonderful people running. I, of course, want you to vote for me and Judge Harvey and Judge Bates. But everyone running is not a judge.
We still have this caller trying to get in. Judge, maybe you say caller, and maybe it'll work.
Caller?
Straight Talk. Caller? How can we help you? What's your question for the judges? They're not.
They're there.
They're there, but they just, it's not coming through. We're going to leave it alone. If it calls back, we're not at home. Go ahead.
Well, and that was just it. That's one of the many things that we, again, educate on. Look at people's cards. Does it say elect Judge whomever? Does it say elect Judge Bates? Does it say elect Judge Harvey? Does it say elect Judge Davis? Or does it say elect this person for judge? If it says elect judge, we have been appointed. We are the sitting judge. We have been vetted and tested. And I just think you have to know the difference when you're making your personal evaluation for what you do in that voter.
Exactly.
And just giving people all of that information.
You don't think I should try this call again, judges?
That's all on you.
Okay. Straight talk, caller. How come you're gonna got a question for the judges? Okay, we're gonna disconnect, and we're probably gonna disconnect the phone. Okay. But my other question is, since you are out there and you're seeing it and you're getting these questions back from them, I mean, do we think it's going to be a better turnout with judges as far as people voting for judges? Because a lot of people go in and they say, I don't even know any of these judges. I just go in and just...
Let's take a second and do a teeny bit of education that I learned, and 23 years, I don't think forever I didn't really understand the process. There are two separate lists of judges on any ballot.
Okay.
There are those for retention. So that's the long line you see that's yes, no, yes, no. We're not in that yet. We will be in the smaller list, but they will be lists.
Okay.
And it's for the vacancy of. Judge Harvey is for the vacancy of retired Judge James Rhodes. I am in the vacancy of Marjorie Laws.
Okay.
So retired judge. So there are only going to be a couple people in my race. There are only going to be a couple people in Judge Harvey's race. So it's a different thing, and it's important to go down that ballot. Judges make a difference.
Absolutely.
Judges, people say, well, I don't ever want to come before a judge, but your interests always do. When it's a question of a tax, I'm not getting into whatever tax it may be, whether a tax is constitutional or not, a judge makes that decision.
Gotcha.
When it comes to a question of is something proper or right that may affect you, judges make those decisions. Something everybody understands. The question of whether the president's travel ban was constitutional, a judge made that decision.
Yes.
So in your interests, even at the local level, come before judges.
Wow.
So it's so important that you vote for the judges.
I mean, you're making a very good point, and people don't understand it. It's like you guys do make very, very important everyday decisions over our lives. And we choose to not vote for people. We just go in and say, forget it. You know, so these same people are being re-voted in, and we don't know who we have.
But it's a matter of making it personal.
Right.
And I think that's what judges in the past have not done as much.
Okay.
When it came time to vote for President Obama, people went out in our communities
wanted to vote
because it was personal. It was, there's a judge that's from our community that represents our interests, and it's personal. So, I mean, you didn't care who it was. You went and picked up Big Mama, and you made your little nephew if he had
My mama beat me to the polls at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like there was a line here in Illinois, but she was there because it was personal.
Oh yeah, it has to be personal. And I just want our viewers to understand it is personal.
It's a serious
with all the laws that are going on with our kids, everything that's happening with our children right now, unfortunately, many of these children are finding themselves in a courtroom. It's personal.
Well, you know, one of the things I was talking to seniors about, everybody worries about, and I do too, making sure that young men and women aren't locked up and the key thrown away. But I sit at a misdemeanor courtroom, so I also balance making sure the seniors can walk the streets of our community. This is my neighborhood.
Yes.
I sit at the courthouse at 111th and Ellis. I grew up 10 blocks away. So I want to know that the children or grandchildren of the people I grew up with, that they are not thrown away, that I don't consider them a piece of crap, I don't consider them a piece of garbage. I always remember that when that baby was born, somebody was happy to see that baby, but I also know Big Mama needs to be able to walk down the street. She needs to be able to go outside at night and go to the community meeting. So it's finding that balance.
That's right.
And that's why judges matter. You can't just say, I'm never going to go in front of them, but then you don't know why you can't walk out and down the street, because you've got to have the right people sitting on that bench.
You got to have the right people taking certain people off the streets. And you got to have the right people there.
The case calls for it, absolutely.
And then you have to have situations where it doesn't call for someone to be put away for life. You know, and giving them a chance to come back out, rehabilitate themselves, and become productive individuals in the world. You just get some judges to say, hey, you're gone.
And that's the thing that we want to make sure our community recognizes, that when you talk about the judges who are appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court, when you talk about the candidates, you want to think longevity. You want to think about individuals who have the experience, but have the ability to sit there in that position and be there to represent our community for years to come. You want qualified individuals. You don't want someone who's just going to get there, I'm here for 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, and then we're right back at step 1 trying to find someone else who's qualified. You want individuals who have the experience, who have the commitment to our community, to bring fairness, to bring integrity to the system. I understand when I put on the robe, I have to represent not only the judicial community, I represent the African American community. And if I did not know that before I was appointed, the individuals who have come before me put me in remembrance of that. To have,
tell them about the woman.
To have, and this for me, and it's the story that I tell, and it's a real story. But I had a young lady, a senior, come in front of me on a case, and I sit down in the Daily Center in the evictions courtroom, and I had a young lady come in front of me, and she was on a walker, and she had a motion where she was requesting additional time. And she stepped up, and her daughter stepped up with her, and she began to tell me, I said, ma'am, it's your motion, you may proceed. She began to tell me why she was asking for more time, what her concerns were, and then she began to get emotional. And her daughter wanted to chime in. I said, no, let mama talk. And I let her explain what she wanted to explain, and then I asked her some questions. And I had to deny her request for more time. But I said, you know, respectfully, ma'am, is this the case? Is this the case? Well, this is what my decision has to be. And when she finished, she said, well, Judge, I understand and I respect that. And I just want you to know we're proud of you. And that touched me, that humbled me. Because I realized it was not about me. She realized and was telling me, you are making us proud. This is not someone who was from my church, from my neighborhood, someone who watched me grow up. This is someone who understood that I knew what I was doing up there, and I was respectful of everyone. If no one else had ever made her feel comfortable in court, if no one else had ever taken the time to hear her, I gave her her day in court. And she said, we're proud of you.
That's beautiful.
You know, and I think I told you I had, not the same, but a man, not quite a senior, but older than me, and I found him guilty. I believe that that was the case. I have seen him afterwards. He is active in our community. I am active. And he has told me, he was like, you treated me with such respect. What can I do to help you on the campaign? Is there anything I could do? I done found you guilty.
Yeah, I would have been, I would have been blown away, like, you want to help me?
I had found him guilty, and he didn't thank me for finding him guilty. But he thanked me for how I treated him.
With dignity, with respect, and that's all anyone wants.
But why wouldn't you treat everyone that way? One of the things I tell people when the prosecutors are asking me to admonish defendants who they are giving a deferred prosecution or dropping the charges, I tell them, treat people like you would treat the people on the bus. even if you don't like them, good morning, good afternoon,
Right.
and keep it moving.
That's
But
right.
in court, I do more than that. Good morning, good afternoon, how are you?
Absolutely.
If they ask me how I'm well today. How are you? Because that's how people want to be treated.
Exactly.
So treat them that way.
And that's so true. And I don't like going to court for anything, but I would love to have judges like you to be there, the respect level. Because I have gone once or twice for issues, and I'm like, this judge is just, look at the attitude, the way they speak to you. Don't even, you know.
Because I am grateful every day that I put on that robe. It is an awesome responsibility, privilege, and I walk in favor, faith, and gratitude.
Right. I mean, it's that. I think that's the fantastic part about our story is really that we don't come here saying, "Look, I'm the most qualified person, and that's why I should have this job." And no, it's we've been appointed for such, you know, and I Bible based, appointed for such a time as this. That there needs to be in light of what we see on television and what's happening in politics and happening in the world and throughout this country.
Right.
This is a season, if never before, that we have to have the Deborah kind of judge, a judge who is just and who is fair and is going to do what is right regardless of what the consequences may be, is going to do what's right. And I think that's what we bring. It's not about me. Although I know my grandparents would be proud, although I know my parents are proud, those who have watched us grow up, I know that they are proud of us.
Right.
But it's bigger than us. It's about what we have to do for our community.
It's definitely bigger than both of you all, and I commend you for what you do. Because I know I'm a political person as well. My decisions are made on everyday living conditions and people in the community, but yours is based on individuality, individuals' lives. And that's huge.
It is.
That's huge. And
It's God's
everybody
work.
can't be a judge. I can just say that much. Everyone is not fit to be a judge. And to hear the stories that you all are saying, we need to keep you there, retain you there, and just allow you to do the good jobs that you have been doing. And I'm just pleased to know you and know that you're doing a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, so I want both of you all to just look into the cameras and share some things with them about Thanksgiving, anything you want, you know, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone's going to be eating turkey and eating a lot of food and getting full and being, most of all, around their family, their loved ones. So
Well, now I feel like I need to wear purple for Deborah. I like her to finish. She's real good.
all right, go ahead.
But I walk into this Thanksgiving with gratitude, just with gratitude. One of my favorite phrases is, I stand in a space of gratitude.
Okay.
I stand on my grandmother's shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of a woman who put herself through school and her children through school. I stand on the shoulders of my great-grandmother's Bible, who I held when I was sworn in, who was a state NAACP president, who had a daughter who had her master's degree in the 1940s. I stand on those shoulders, and I take that commitment seriously. My commitment is to my ancestors. I owe them a debt. I owe a debt to every person on my block who would not let me get in trouble and would spank me and then tell my mama, and my mama would be embarrassed. So I owe them a debt, and I owe a debt to future generations to make them better than us, to let them be better. I don't want them to equal us. I want them to be better.
Right.
And the work I do in court, when I make young men and women apologize to their mama because they had to be in court the day before Thanksgiving, because I want them to know that someone believes in them, wants to give them the tools for success and not for failure. And that's why I'm here.
Well, we appreciate that. Judge, what do you want to say?
I know we want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone that's watching. And just like you've heard Judge Davis say about how we're thankful. We want, tomorrow will not be a day of campaigning.
Praise the Lord.
It will not be a day of politicking. It will be a day of being truly thankful. Thankful for our families and our friends. Thankful for the fact that we live in a country, although we are not necessarily happy with all of the things that are happening in the news right now, but that we are thankful that we live in the country that we live in, that we're able to afford certain, just certain principles, that we are able to go and worship where we want to worship. We're able to go and, you know, share with our families, and, you know, our families aren't separated by some wall or some war. There are so many little things that we have to be thankful for. And then, you know, once that's over, then Black Friday, we're back at it.
Oh yeah, Black Friday. And then, I want to say to our viewers is that I'm thankful first of all for life.
Amen.
Without that, we have nothing, and we all know that. Second of all, just, I mean, you're going to have trials and tribulations going on in life, but you just got to be thankful that, you know, you still have family. Yes. You still have friends. I don't care who it is. You have someone you can reach out to and talk to. But most of all, I say talk to the Lord.
Absolutely.
That's the first and most important thing that you need to do. And understand in life, you know, no matter what the difficulties are, if you keep Him first, you'll get through anything. Because if you look at your life picture and all the things that have gone on in your life, you've gotten through them, right? Because if you're looking at me, you've gotten through them. If you're looking at the judges, you've gotten through them. So just keep Him lifted and keep the faith.
My good days outweigh
my bad days. I won't complain.
We won't complain. So I'm not cooking anything tomorrow. My wife and her mother and all of them, I'm going to show up. I'll probably bring something, a beverage, some water to the party.
We've got some water with our faces on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you do. You do got the water with your faces on it. So I just want to know, what dishes are you ladies cooking around? Do you have a favorite dish that you are going to share with your family, or what?
I am not baking, shockingly. I do bake a mean pound cake, but I am making corn salad, ham, and green beans. I'm taking it to potluck.
Sounds good. What about you?
I have the joy of hosting my family, and I don't complain because we have a good time.
Okay.
So I have the turkey. My daughter and I will also be making sweet potato pies.
Wow.
Red velvet cupcakes, and for my dad, not that he needs it, turtle brownies with extra walnuts.
Could you save me one?
Yeah, save her one. But that is a beautiful thing. So your daughters and family will be together, enjoying. You plan on, you know, everybody's going to be working out the next day, going to the gym, running, doing all this stuff to try to get off some of that.
Yes.
But you ladies are going to be walking around and doing it anyway, because it's busy time.
Yes, it is.
So I'm looking forward to seeing some victory very soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we're going to do another show with you all before the race so we can find out how close, what's going on. So we're going to keep you motivated, people. We're going to keep them in straight talk. We're going to keep them straight talking to you and letting you know what's going on. And I'm quite sure they appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate them. So I just want to say thank you. Let's all say Happy Thanksgiving together.
Happy Thanksgiving.
God bless and have a good night.